Welcome back to episode 153 of the To Become Family podcast. Look at you, look at me, all impressed. I can see it on your face, and you could see it on her face too if you were on YouTube.
Just remembering what episode we're on.
150. Well, I had to record a reel today. 153 of To Become Family podcast, and we are on part 2 of our series Resurrected Marriage, where we talk about ways that God healed our marriage, but also just ways that we think all couples can more intentionally live in the reality of the resurrection. By grace, we talked about that last week. Last week we talked all about grace and how living in a resurrected marriage requires grit. Requires grace, not grit. Sorry.
No matter how much you try to grit it out.
Nope. Grit just isn't it. Oh, ooh,
there it is.
Make some merch. Make some merch.
I like it.
No one's buying that.
No. All right. Yes. So we talked about in order to live in the resurrection, needing to tap into the grace of the sacrament.
Yeah.
And this week,
we're on part 2.
Part 2. And what are we talking about?
So today we're talking about going from fruit to root. Sorry, I almost said it backwards. So we're going to try to give you tangible examples today of how you can go from focusing on the bad fruit in your marriage and shifting that to focusing on the bad trees of your marriage.
Let's
make
great.
It worse. Make it worse. Okay.
You are a melancholy.
Am I?
Absolutely.
I'm wearing my...
You're some kind of style today. You're some kind of style today.
I'm all kinds of style.
All kinds of things.
You don't like it?
Gray sweatpants.
Is this not a thing? I'm comfy.
It's a bedtime thing.
It's a bedtime. Actually, that's all you're getting. And we love that you're here.
Our studio is so nice and you guys.
We didn't record yesterday because Monica's like, we were in soccer weather yesterday. And by that we mean it was super windy.
The chairs were flying.
Sorry. I'm okay.
It was so New England windy yesterday at soccer.
Yeah. And so I'm sorry. We have no water here. Right. So we didn't look ready to record it. I didn't care.
Looked like we were out in the wind for hours.
I didn't care. But Monica cared.
I cared.
She cares, and that's good. It's good. It's good. So, sorry. This is not that I don't care. This is just, I struggle with dressing, wearing clothes. So, like what to wear, how to match. Yes. So I just
prefer to be naked.
No.
Just socks.
That is a personal attack. Gloves are off. Socks are on. Sorry. Do you know? Okay, so Colby, I'm sorry, guys. We will get to root to fruit. Our oldest was talking to me today on our way to jiu-jitsu. He was talking about the soccer game yesterday, and he was saying how one of the kids on the soccer team, on the other team, the opposing team, was trash talking him. Yep. He's like, I just chose. Did he tell you about this?
Well, I overheard him talking to his brother about it.
And he's like, yeah, I just ignored him. And I was like, oh, what was he saying? He's like, he kept calling me like, hey, Mr. Ortega. And he kept like trying to get my attention. I think he's just trying to distract me and get me angry. And he just kept calling me Mr. Ortega, Mr. Ortega. And I was like, you should have said. I was like, did you go by him a couple times? Like, oh, yeah, I did. I was like, you should have said, you have to call me sir. And then next time being him, like, you need to call me dad. And then after that, I'd be like, I'm your father now. And then after that, I'd be like, you're going to timeout. And like, I was like, that's how you should have said to him. He's like, oh, I should have thought of that.
But he's like me, and he will never.
He'll never.
He will never. But you and John Paul.
Oh my gosh, that's what I did when I played. I would.
But you're so quick. Like if I was to think of comebacks, I wouldn't be able to play my sport. Like I can't do both.
Well, it's funny because
I can either be good at the sport or I can trash talk. So since I can't do both at the same time, it's ineffective.
Do you remember those commercials with the Hispanic family? I think their last name was Ortega too, because the tacos were Ortega.
Must be.
Do you remember that? And it was like a taco, but it was also like flat. And she's like, either you put the things in the taco and it falls over, or you can hold it straight up. And then she's like, why not both?
No, I don't remember that.
Never mind. It's all right. You remember people. Yes. So I was going to say, why can't you be both good at soccer and trash talk? But so that was our weekend. A lot of soccer, a lot of travel,
yeah.
all over the place.
Youth group.
So I wear this out of love because I'm here.
We're here.
And no, so okay, so root to fruit. So the idea of getting to
fruit to root,
root to fruit to root. Sorry, we want to. Okay,
mm-hmm.
Let's summarize the point.
We're not trying to steal Dr. Bob Schutz, but we're going to be informed by him.
Yes, no, this is 100% Dr. Bob Schutz. I'd rather you read Be Healed than listen to this episode. So I'll link. I told the people I was going to link things last week and I didn't link them. All right, I'm going to put Be Healed in the show notes. Be sure to go and purchase that if you haven't already done so. I think healing and his healing stuff is really good. One of the things that stuck out to me from his work was the idea of good fruit and bad fruit, and being able to uproot trees that produce bad fruit. So we talked about in the catechism last week how we can know that grace is working in our lives by the fruit that our lives produce. The good fruit being the fruits of the Holy Spirit, and and one of the good fruits being the fruits of the Holy Spirit. But then from there, just the good fruit in our lives is an indicator that grace is working in our lives. And what tends to happen, and what happened with our marriage and in our relationship, was we noticed that there was like a lot of bad fruit in our lives. So like arguing all the time without resolution, that's bad fruit. Resentment is bad fruit. Unforgiveness is bad fruit. Like things like that.
Restlessness and
different things day to day. And you can probably point to more. And I think having tangible examples of bad fruit is actually a good thing. So for me, I would be, one of the bad fruits for our marriage early on was that I would get home and feel like I needed to rest right away, and I would not engage with the family when I came home. So that's a bad fruit. That's a thing that if you ask me, I would not have wanted. I would have wanted to be an involved father, but I'd get home and be like, oh, I'm so tired. Let me go play a video game. And I remember asking that, like, can I just play for 1 hour? Can I just have a break? I just got home. Let me take a break. So like that to me was bad fruit.
So it's not just behavior, but it's also like it's the disengagement and the passivity. So
it could be anything. That's the way saying this is good. Like the way that I would define it would be like the things that are taking away from your marriage and family life, like the negative things that are taking away from it.
Especially if it's something that you're not desiring, right? So like there can be times where we are actively pursuing something else, like maybe finances are really tight, so like a job is taking you away from your family to provide and put food on the table and things like that. So that but it's more, I think bad fruit is often this like, why is this happening? Why are we like this? And it often is a point of like confusion, or like one or both of you are like, this doesn't belong here. Like this isn't what we're aiming for, what we're trying for, but we're like, why? Like why? I think it offers a sense of like confusion and unrest.
Yeah, I think unrest for sure. I don't know if confusion, because I think a lot of people. So, like for example, I think like yelling at your kids is bad fruit. And we can get into that into a different episode. But like that's just one of the, in our marriage, I felt like the way we yelled at our kids early in our relationship, early in our marriage, and especially when they were younger, was bad fruit. And I think that I wouldn't have said I was confused by it. I'd be like, well, they shouldn't have done this. That's why I yelled. So like, but I would at the end of the day be like, I wish I didn't yell at them as much.
But I think there's also a confusion of like, why can't we get it together? Like why are
sure,
we
yeah, okay.
Like
and I felt that more of like, I wouldn't say I was confused. Well, I felt very, because so end of the day, I remember early with our oldest, end of the day, I would always like come back and lament to myself. I was just like, why did I treat him this way? Yeah. I don't think confusion. It was just like, I felt very powerless to, I just can't get out of this thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's part of what I meant too, of like, we weren't like, this isn't part of what we were pursuing. This isn't what we were trying to produce. We're trying to, like, we were hoping for things and they're not happening the way that we were hoping. And for me, it was like confusion of like, I don't understand why though, because I thought we were doing a lot of the right things to make the good fruit happen. Why is there bad fruit? So I guess maybe for me, there was a lot of confusion.
Yeah. And we wouldn't have called it bad fruit and good fruit then. We just thought that like, there's negative things happening and there's positive, and like you kind of, you kind of go hoping that at the end of the day you did more good than bad, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, and that's just not a way to live, but that's how we were living.
Yeah.
In this idea,
And again,
from
a lot of it because we were trying to rely on grit instead of grace.
mhm.
But so now we're kind of like, okay, beyond that, like we've learned that we can't do this all on our own and we need to rely on the sacrament. So in that, it was important for us to start identifying, okay, like where are these, like let's hone in on these bad fruits of our marriage, bad fruits of our relationship, like the things that we don't want, that we want to pluck out, that we want to get rid of. Um and so like Dr. Bob Schutz would talk about like the bad fruits and the good fruits. So those are the like the things that you can see, the tangible things that you can like pinpoint and like look at your day, like I wish that didn't happen. Oh, that was a good thing and stuff. And um but that wasn't like the solution,
No, right,
right?
because what I think what ends up happening for a lot of people is that they get to a place of, well, this is just behavior modification. I have to
Yes.
modify my behaviors. I
I have
have
to
to
just stop yelling
I have
so
to stop
much.
yelling. I have to be more gentle. I have to stop being frustrated with my husband. I have to be more understanding. I need to stop being so lazy. I just have to be. I just have to get up and do the things.
Hmm.
Um, and I think so that you just mentioned plucking the fruit out. So if you think of like different areas of life, um, good trees produce good fruit. So the good fruit in our lives, like you can see, like okay, there's good trees that we have. So like, oh, we have a great I can't think. What did we have something that's good? Name something good from earlier in our marriage.
Mm,
We had a good friendship, or we
yeah.
had a good friendship together. So like that produced a lot of good fruit of like we could have fun together.
Hmm.
We could enjoy each other's company. We knew how the other clicked. Like
Sure.
we just knew what made the other person great for us. So like that made a foundation of marriage good. And like so the good fruit of our friendship produced good fruit of all these extra things that we could have in our relationship. Um, but then there's also bad fruit that bad behaviors you'd want to just like pluck out. So like I yell, I'm gonna just pluck that fruit, and the yelling fruit, just throw it away. Like so, therefore, I'm not going to yell anymore. Anytime I feel like yelling, I'm just not going to yell. Anytime I feel like yelling, I'm not going to yell. But what we learned from Dr. Bob is that like no matter how many times you pluck a bad fruit out, a bad tree is always going to produce bad fruit.
Mm.
So you have to get to the root of that tree and really uproot it to get it out of your life. Now, this is not the same thing as like you got to get to the core of what's causing all this, because like you could still get to the core of what's causing things and still have nothing change.
Yeah.
Because again, this isn't a behavior modification thing,
Hmm.
but this is a so. And I'm hoping you can help put like flesh to this
Mm.
skeleton of a thing I'm saying. But I think what I liked about Dr. Bob is that it talked about good fruit, bad fruit, good to the root, fine. But then when you got to the root, it was all right, one of these things is what caused it. And he associated with a lot of vices.
Hmm.
And like you either like relied too much on yourself, and therefore now this tree of self-reliance has grown, and
Hmm.
now all the bad fruit you're seeing is because of this. Like it could be something as like you have a tree that's like, oh, this is lust, and like you just let that tree bloom, and now you have all these different things that are related to lust popping up, and you're just trying to modify them, but there's a deeper thing that needs
Yes.
to be rectified.
Yeah. So yes, he definitely talked a lot about our like outward behaviors. These fruits are rooted in some sort of vice, and the remedy for that is to like uproot that vice, to really first like name it, identify it, go beyond just the behavior and like what is happening inside, what is happening in my heart, what is happening in my soul, what is happening like interpersonally, how am I approaching this on like a deeper spiritual and psychological level, um, that is resulting in these behaviors that I don't want. Um, so like naming it, identifying it, and then not just not just behavior modification, not just trying to like stop a behavior, but the best way to uproot a bad tree is to also then like fill it with a good tree. So to work on virtue. And again, like going back to our,
Well, but before that though,
I'm sorry.
no, you don't have to apologize. One of the before that though, as you uproot the tree, a lot of that it's identifying wounds and allowing healing to
Yeah.
happen. because
Yes.
a lot of times, like a lot of the bad trees in our lives can also be either like learned behaviors that, whatever, but it could also be things that like we've been hurt in certain
Yeah.
ways.
So
And
it's like a response to,
right.
um, it could be a response to trauma. It could be a response to like the way you learn things in childhood. It could be a response to like exposure to things in culture. It can be even just like a response to like, this is my temperament or my personality. This is kind of like the way I see life, and then my experiences informed me,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of I went in this certain direction instead of choosing the better. I just chose like the easier, or I chose the thing that like is my inclination. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe I didn't like evaluate that enough. And now that has grown a fruit that has grown a tree, excuse me, that's like accidental, like
Yeah.
not on purpose, right? And now it's producing bad fruit because it was lackadaisical and just sort of happened, and it wasn't cultivated, it wasn't like pruned, it wasn't worked on.
Yeah. I
So
can, I can give a tangible example. So when my parents listen, so well, I'm sharing your stuff. Hi, mom. My mom listens. So I remember growing up, my mom she worked a ton. She had to
Mhm.
work a ton to help support us. My dad like worked nights. My mom worked during the day, so they didn't see each other much. But one of the things that stunk for my mom was that she couldn't see us, me and my brother, as much because she
Mhm.
was always working while we were at school or home during the weekend or whatever. So she'd see us like a little bit at night, and then we'd go to bed. And then my dad would be working throughout the night, and then he'd be up with us during the day. So like they had very odd schedules. But I remember her lamenting a lot when I was younger about like she just wished she could just be home with us because like she's
Mhm.
like, I'm a mom, I wish I could be home. So like that was one of the things that motivated me and eventually us to like, hey, you could be home with the kids.
Mhm.
And I remember early in our marriage, like I was determined to like be able to work enough so that you could be home with the kids. So that was like my learned response and my learned everything. And that produced a tree. And what ended up happening was that no matter how overworked I felt, or, no matter how I felt, I always felt like I had the right to ask you to do more at home because
Mhm.
I'm working to let you be able to be home with the kids. Like
Mhm.
I'm giving you a gift. So therefore,
Yeah.
when I come home, I'm tired. So then I should be able to go do whatever I want because like look at the great gift
You
I'm
got the
giving you.
thing you wanted, and
Yes.
I feel this way because I did what I was supposed to do.
So like,
Yeah.
and in any resentment I felt from, oh, I have to do more things, or like you're never happy and this and that, like all of that stemmed from this came from someone else's wound
Mhm.
that just because they articulated it to me,
Yeah.
I assumed like, okay, I don't want this to happen.
Yeah.
So therefore, and so
And
like
it seems like that, like
super for reason.
well-intentioned
Hmm.
at first. Yeah,
Like it didn't come
absolutely.
off as like I like holding a carrot over your head, like of like, oh look, you have to act
No,
a certain
no, no,
way.
no. Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
definitely of like, no, I love you and I'm sacrificing to do this.
Yeah.
But like, doesn't that mean so? Shouldn't I then get extra time to
A
do what I
reprieve.
want,
Shouldn't I
right?
get a
Like, shouldn't I
break?
be able
Yeah.
to do? Why do I have to go help with all these things with the kids? Like, isn't that your job? And as like, I know that doesn't sound good, and I don't think that now, but like, that's where we started, um, and that inevitably produced a lot of bad fruit in our marriage, like me not being present to the kids when I came home,
Mhm.
like you feeling resentment because I wouldn't help around the house, like all of these things. And what happened in our marriage, we started plucking out the fruit. So like I'd get home for the day and be like, all right, I'm going to be focused on the kids. I'm going to come home and I'm going to be focused. And no matter how focused I was trying to be through that behavior modification, like I always harbored like an anger of, I wish I didn't have to do this right now. Like, oh,
Mhm.
this is
Mhm.
so stressful. I wish I just had time to myself. Like now I'm exhausted. It's 10 o'clock at night. And like, I didn't get to anything to do anything for myself that day. And so like that's like what a typical thing could look like. It's not like a huge trauma that happened to me. It's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
someone just told me as a kid. I'm like, oh, okay, this is how it should be.
And you wanted to prevent that going
Hmm.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what one of the wounds, like Dr. Bob and B. Heal also talks about like the anatomy of a wound. And he talks about how like even just like if something you tell yourself like I'm never gonna let my wife need to work a day in her life, for
Yes.
example, like that is not a healthy thing because
Yeah.
like that's
The
not also
stories we tell
you,
ourselves. What are the promises? What does he call them? I forget.
agreements, not agreements. That's something that I think Encounter uses that.
Vows. I mean,
Vows,
there's
yeah. He like there's it's a lot of this stuff is very similar
a
to
lot
like
of
many
healing
ministry.
ministry.
like use the
Yeah.
words interchangeably.
Yeah.
The first one I encountered was Dr. Bob's. Like that's what I'm using, but like I
Yeah.
know this is a thing. But I think it's you make a vow of I'm never gonna let blank,
Right.
and that automatically is gonna start. You already like put yourself in a certain frame of mind to not allow God to be able to speak into that because you're like, no,
Yeah.
no, this is what I said, and that's why like for God specifically for our marriage, like
Yeah.
he's like, nope, you're switching roles,
Yeah.
and like he completely came in and like obliterated that
Yeah.
because it wasn't healthy, it wasn't helping.
Right.
But that's just one that I had. I know you also had we all had a ton.
We had a ton. And for me, it was not quite as easily identifiable, at least for me. Like, and part of it is because, so one of the wounds that we have and I have been working on healing is like actually you looking like is something not working?
Everything's working great. I was just there it is. Keep going.
Um, like tech check,
Yep.
was like has a clinical name for it too. So for me, a lot of my like healing journey and my like I hate using that term because it sounds kind of cliche at this point, but I do think it's really important for everyone to realize like this is the Christian life. You need healing. Jesus is a like Jesus is the healer. Like
Yes, like
this is really a thing. It's not as froofy as
no, and
sometimes it
pursuit of
sounds.
virtue alone is not enough. Like
Yes.
that's just behavior modification, and you
Right.
can't just live on that.
Yes. And like pursuit of virtue without leaning on and cooperating with grace, but then also like not looking at the whole human. Um, and like Dr. Bob's retreats and
Healing the
things are
whole
called
person.
healing the whole person. So for me, it came like my healing journey started as like psychological healing and then that led towards spiritual healing and relationship healing and things like that. But so I was diagnosed with codependency in going to therapy. So we switched roles, and there was just like a lot of unrest and dissatisfaction in our home. And so one of the things that I did was I went to therapy, and it was prompted by postpartum depression. But like in working through like the hormonal imbalances of that, and kind of like taking some steps to take the edge of postpartum depression off, it revealed um, a deeper rooted bad tree of codependency. And so for me, there was a lot of, and similar, like just different messages, not not meant to like attack or harm me, but just like in my home, there was a lot of opinions and a lot of um, like judgment on other families and other people and how they did things, and we would hear that a lot from our parents, and so I always worried that I would be one of those people that they talked about, and I never wanted to be that person that like disappointed, and like add in parental divorce and like just a lot of own personal like experiences cultivated this bad tree. um and so for us, when there was like dissatisfaction, when there was problems in our marriage, I was so worried and trying to like fix it and feeling like it was my fault, um and just like worrying about how you saw me, and because the way you communicate is pretty like straightforward and blunt, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what he's willing to tell me. What is he thinking behind that? Because that was my learned and lived experience of like, you don't tell people exactly how you feel. Like you talk behind their back about it. And so I was like always so worried of like, if you're willing to tell me this, like what else are you thinking? So there was a lot of distrust and like walking on eggshells. And again, like I sometimes I would put that blame on you, but it really wasn't you because you're being upfront and honest in a way that I had never experienced before. So, so for me, a lot of that was prompted by therapy. And so we're pretty big advocates of like, if this is something that you guys are experiencing and struggling with, it's okay to also have like a third party take a look at the scene and like give suggestions and give their expertise to help in this like healing process and in this uprooting of bad trees.
I think it's helpful though I think some people go into therapy, and this is fine. Like whenever you feel like you need to go to therapy, even if you don't go to therapy, I'm not saying don't go to therapy. What I am saying though is that I think it's hard if you go into therapy and never have done any inner work,
Mm.
and you have no idea, like you have not done any wrestling with like where have these things come from, where are the bad trees, what's the bad fruit in my life, what's the bad fruit in my marriage,
Mm.
because I think a lot of times what can happen is God can reveal some things, and then maybe He doesn't need you to bring it directly to Him. Maybe you need to go to therapy, and like that's where the healing comes in.
Mm.
But I think that even if you're not able to go to therapy, doing the work of trying to just being able to put names to things
Mhm.
and being aware of things, because like, there's a ton of things. Um, Most recently, I went to when I was getting my stomach. We never did a health update, but when I had some, have still and probably will for the rest of my life, but I have stomach issues. And at one point, the doctor, my PCP, when I went to him, he's like, "Do you have anxiety?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." He's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay," and he just put in the diagnosis. Like he didn't even really diagnose me. But just like
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say I do, and
Yeah.
I know a ton of my triggers. I know a lot of where the things come from,
Mhm.
and I think that's okay to
Mhm.
be able to identify the things, like be
Yeah.
able to know, like, yeah, I have anxiety about these things. Don't really
Mhm.
having like I can know what's not anxiety. Like, no, I'm not anxious.
Sure.
I'm aware of certain things.
Mhm.
No, that I'm definitely anxious about that. So,
Mhm.
and I think that is helpful to have going into therapy, so you could at least
Mhm.
give your therapist something to work with, as opposed to
Yeah.
just being like, I don't know, I'm just here.
Well, because like it is a thing to like transfer the responsibility onto
Mhm.
somebody else and be like, you are the healer. Like you fix me. I'm coming to you. I'm like, I'll answer your questions, and then you're going to tell me what to do, and you're the one that's going to like
When a good therapist makes
this.
you do the work.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. So I think that yeah, it's a both and. It's not like therapy in and of itself is never going to be the remedy that brings like true and full healing to yourself or to your marriage, but it's absolutely a great tool for like unearthing some of these things or identifying some of them or maybe like giving a name to it. I think for you and I, we've talked about this a lot on our in our episodes and stuff, is that like for us, labeling is not so much to like, "Oh, this is our label and like we're stuck with it." Like it doesn't become our identity. But these ideas of like new vocabulary have helped us, and these labels have helped us to learn how to communicate better and even to just understand ourselves better so that we can go a little bit deeper. So, like, okay, now I have this term of codependency. What does that mean? Where could that have come from? Um,
Yeah.
how does that manifest? Like, what is the bad fruit of codependency? So that, like, if I start to see that, like, oop, trace that back down to the
Hmm.
codependency thing, and okay, now that was a bad fruit that wasn't presenting itself before, but now it is because I had worked on some other area of
Right.
it.
Right. Like you could think you completely uprooted the whole tree of codependency, but then like you can notice like, oh, this is codependency here. Like this is,
Hmm.
oh, I guess the tree's still in there somewhere. And like,
Yeah,
okay, I got it. There's
right.
more things to be done.
And for me to even then be able to communicate that to you
Hmm.
and be like, I'm feel like this is a phrase I use. I'm feeling pretty codependent right now. So
Yes.
just for you to this situation right now, this experience, this having to set a boundary, like it's hard for me.
Hmm.
I'm doing a hard thing right now, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Well, even there's been times in the past where like I've wanted to help you set a boundary to like affirm you in it.
yeah.
And I know now I can just be like, I've said, is this your codependency, or are you like legitimately wanting to do this? And I can just take whatever answer
Mm,
you get, because I
mhm.
think because you understand that like I'm not trying to like
Yeah,
pry.
yeah, yeah.
I just want to like, do you really want to do this, or are you just being
Yeah.
codependent?
It's
And
kind of like, yeah, like, is this FOMO or do you actually want to like
Mhm.
go and do the thing? And like for me to be able to communicate that. So I
So like I
think,
think healing doesn't, and I like what Dr. Bruninger says about healing in this. So like healing is not like that these things completely go away either,
yes, yeah.
but like you can uproot the tree, and then like it gets like new trees could be, little bad trees could
Little
be popping
sprouts,
up,
little
but
sprouts.
like you are now aware of like, oh,
Hmm.
this is a thing that happens with me, and like, oh nope, this is what this is. Let's uproot it again, and like you're, and
Yeah.
that's that becomes your life, because now, and you're healed because you're free. Because like, and this is what I say to the kids all the time, like, so one of our kids is an amazing athlete, super, super great kid. And you'd assume he would want to compete in something.
Mm-hmm.
And recently he had the chance to compete in a thing. I'm not gonna say what it is. And he didn't want to because he's afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And he's afraid because the people that he'd have to go against are bigger and stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And I never would have guessed this of him.
No.
And he said it, and I could tell that there was a bad tree there.
Yeah.
So I pointed out to him, I was like, I think you don't want to compete because you're afraid. He's like, yeah. I was like, that makes me want to makes me as a dad makes me as a dad
Want to
want
make
to
you
make you
do it.
compete.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay, you're gonna make me? I said, no, I'm not going to, but it makes me want to, because I can tell right now you're not making a free choice.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, why? Because I know you like competing.
Mm-hmm.
You enjoy
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But you're afraid. Yes. You're not free right now.
Right.
And he's
Mm-hmm.
like, huh. And he sat with that, and I was like, I just need you to sit with this.
Yeah. I need you to know that.
And the time's
Yeah.
gonna come when I'm gonna force you, but it's not because I'm like, it's not because like, oh, I have to beat this out of you, like, and nothing like that. It's just like,
No.
I want you to be able to make free choices.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what healing is, that you are able to now make free choices
Yeah.
for the good of your marriage, for the good of your spiritual life, your spouse's
Yeah.
spiritual life, whatever. But you're free to make choices now. Like, you're not just stuck in a, like, oh, I'm just this way. This is just
Mm-hmm.
the way marriage is. Like, this is
Yes.
us forever. Like, no, you have freedom.
Yeah. Well, and that's how I'm going to butcher a little bit of how Dr. Berninger defines healing, but he says something to the effect of healing is the freedom to be able to love the way that you want to love.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of goes back to the examples that you were sharing before of like, I want to be an engaged dad, but I feel like I can't. And so like I don't know how to go about doing that. Even when I try to behave in that way, it's not the fullness of what my goal is, right? And so like even if I behavior modify, then I'm still not loving the way I want to. Um and this whole process of identifying fruit and going to the root and again like partnering virtue and grace together to make that happen because there's definitely a change in behavior like the good fruit of the fruits of the Holy Spirit and peace and joy, but then that also manifests itself in changed behavior, right? So there is some element of that, and sometimes it is choosing the better behavior because you know it's the right thing, and it's practicing and it's reworking and it's rewiring the way things have been. But that is not going to accomplish like the depth of healing that you're desiring if you're also not doing that with grace. If you're not bringing this to prayer and being like, Lord, reveal to me the depth of where this root goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, reveal to me where this stems from. Reveal to me um, the ways that like I'm falling short of the mission of loving the people that you've given me, that you've entrusted me, the way like the people that I do really authentically love, I'm just not doing it right, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and
Well, and that's one thing I struggle with, actually, with I like your point, because like virtue alone, as like you were saying, like there's a lot of Catholic influencers that are like fitness influencers that
mm,
they propose a lot of like fitness stuff to, like, if you have struggle device, like, you have to exercise, you have to break your virtue, blah blah. And I think a lot of times people like being able to practice virtue and say no to desires and do the hard thing, like, that's the beginning of freedom.
yeah,
That's not freedom.
yeah,
Because like, yes, you're afraid and you're going to go do it afraid. Like, you're tired, you're going to go do the thing tired.
yeah,
Like, that's great.
it
And
is
that's
good,
the
right?
beginning of
Yeah,
freedom, but that's not healing. Like,
no,
that's the beginning of
yeah.
starting to get there. And like,
What
there's
is
a,
it called when aestheticism? What is it
Mhm,
when you just right?
yeah,
Like people accuse Exodus 90 of it,
hmm,
right? Is that did I say it
yes,
right?
yeah,
Um, and again, I think like because you've had great experiences, like your first, and you've done Exodus 90 a few
hmm,
times, and like have had really good experiences with it because is the first few steps towards like revealing the areas of like,
Hmm.
ooh, I have like an addiction in this area,
Hmm.
or I have a propensity to like towards this because towards this comfort
Yeah.
because it's been taken away from me by me doing these harder practices, right? Like waking up early to go exercise, or to like the things that these guys are advertising and coaching about. They they are a good they are a good option for a first step towards that because it can reveal areas of your life that you've been struggling with. And it also can show you that like you are capable of a thing that you didn't think you were capable of
Yeah.
before. Like I'm capable of being stronger, I'm capable of eating better, I'm capable of, things like that. But if you again, like if you don't then go the next step and the next step of like, okay, well then why was I a different way before? And if you don't address those things, then you're gonna like quickly move back in that direction, or still struggle and but just have different bad fruit. Like it's gonna be transferred to different bad fruit because that stuff is still there. So like great, now you have big muscles, but like you're um I don't, like whatever that root is now going to manifest somewhere else
Yeah.
because you haven't addressed it.
Like for me, so I'll use me as an example, so
Yeah,
we're not
yeah.
calling it real. Yeah, I can be disciplined and I do all this, work out in the morning, blah, blah. But before I used to get an injury
Hmm.
and then I would fall off the wagon hard. Like, and just
Hmm.
like it wouldn't be just like my exercises would go, all of my disciplines would
Yeah,
go. Right. And like, that was, I wasn't healed because
yeah,
like
yeah.
exercise shouldn't be the thing that sustains me.
Right.
Right. The
Because
Lord should
like
be what sustains
because then like you're eating and you're like participation in chores and like all the
me.
things
Everything
and
would just
everything
go
that
because I rolled my ankle. And
yeah.
like, that's just
Hmm.
not okay.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point where like, and like whenever you and I look back on like, oh, I got hurt. I'm like, oh, you're still going. Or like, do you remember when you couldn't do that? Like, this is so
Yeah.
great. And like, we kind of celebrate
Or
that.
like you didn't keep going with exercising because that's not actually what's best for your body. So
Yeah,
you
yeah.
haven't become scrupulous. Well, you had for a while too, and that identified a thing, and you're like, I'm being scrupulous here now.
I can rest and be
Yeah.
okay. Yes.
But like, yeah, took it took some level of behavior modification. Like it took some like
Hmm.
cooperating and participating. Like you are body and soul. So like
Yeah.
you're going to do things to show that you were involved in this healing process, right? And your behavior should change. Um, and so yeah, when you hit those bumps in the road, when you hit suffering, when you get a different life experience, when it kind of like same but different and and that can identify like another piece that hasn't been revealed before for you to like work on healing, right? And that's okay too. Like that doesn't mean that you aren't healed. That doesn't mean that you've been failing at this. And I think marriage is a unique opportunity because you not only are working interiorly yourself, but you have somebody else who knows you so well and so intimately who can like help reveal these things, can help identify these things, can help like define or give a name to or remind you of
Yeah.
or even just like your kids and your spouse are usually the easiest target for your weaknesses, right? So like I would never like yell at somebody else's kids the way that I would yell at my kids, right? And sometimes and
I would.
okay, well,
Just kidding. Maybe.
we and that's a yelling at slash towards kids is a topic for another episode. But you like you know, just interiorly like when you yell at your kids versus when you raise your voice so that they can hear you because obviously your
Yeah.
talking voice is inaudible to them. Like there's a difference, right? And so um but you guys are just easier targets. So your family, your immediate family is the first place that you can like see how weak you really are, see how
Hmm.
wounded you are, whatever kind of word you want to use for it. But and that's part of the sacrament of marriage. Like it's part of the
Hmm.
perfecting process that God is asking you to join him in, because like he wants you in heaven. He wants to spend eternity with you, and like you can't bring all this crap with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so marriage is supposed to unearth a lot
Yeah.
of this stuff. And what's also unique about it is not only is marriage like revealing that, but you're also not alone in the healing process. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got, not only do you have a person that loves you and you love, that's like showing you this stuff, but also is walking with you and loving you through that journey of like leaning on God. And sometimes they're the one that's like leaning harder and doing more of the praying and doing more of um the heavy lifting, because you're that weak and
Mm.
like and
Yeah.
you need them.
Yeah.
And that's like a very unique and special gift of marriage as well, that like you're not doing this alone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then turning it to you guys, I think, well, the challenge for the week would be to get with your spouse and start identifying. I think start with the bad fruit and like
Hmm.
identify what's the bad fruit that is preventing you from living out a marriage that is living in the resurrection and living in the reality of the resurrection. Like what is holding us back from living a marriage that we wish we had? And start by identifying that fruit, and then ask God to show you what bad trees are, like
Yeah. What is prompting this?
what
Yeah.
is at the bottom of those roots. And then if you find that like we can't handle this alone, like that's where therapy does come in. And if you do feel like, oh, this is something we could do, like go buy Be Healed. I will
Hmm.
put the link in the show notes. Um,
Great
or even
resource.
buy Dr. Granger's book. Is it Freedom? Freedom to Love? No, is that? Am I
No,
just making things? All right,
no,
I'm not
there's
looking at
it's I
Freedom in
just,
Christ.
man, I just looked it
Christ,
up
let me be
today.
free. Sorry, I'm not making fun.
No, I forget what it
I'm
was
looking it up.
called. I just looked it up today too for
Did
something
you?
else. I did.
Bru-
Bruninger. He's got some good talks on YouTube too. Check him out.
Oh yeah. Why am I doing this?
Bruninger book. It comes up when you
Does it really?
because that's actually what I did today. Please, I didn't hear. No.
Free. Dang it! I had a thing I was saying too. Come on. Did you Google it? That's what I should have done. No, instead I have here, why does a Maytag washer stop with 1 minute left in the cycle?
Oh gosh, our appliances
The
are,
devil attacks us through appliances.
yes.
Just spiritual attack through the dryer. Dryer's working. Now the
But
washer.
now the
Freedom in
washing.
Christ. Fighting freedom in Christ. What did I say? Freedom to love. Same thing. Finding freedom in Christ, healing life's hurts by Dr. Matthew Brininger. So yeah, you can dive into those. I'm not cutting it out. The pause that we just had. You can dive into those um, and just do the work that this requires. So, like this requires a lot of hard conversations, um, a lot of work on your end, and then a lot of letting go at one point because God has to do the healing work for you to be free to love the other like you want to love
Yeah.
them.
And so you gave the challenge identifying the bad
Heal
fruit.
yourself.
Yeah. Heal yourself. Identify the bad fruit. Talk about it with your spouse. Don't do this alone.
Don't heal yourself. God can heal you.
But um, in this idea of healing, if in that bad fruit some of it is actual mortal sin, go to the
Oh yeah.
sacrament of confession. And also do not discount the healing power and the sustenance that comes from the sacrament of the Eucharist. Um, because again, like that is a source of grace for us. And that doesn't make rational sense. And maybe this is like we just went to a Eucharistic miracle like exposition. So like we were talking to the teens about how like this is a hard thing to understand about our faith. It is a mystery of our faith that bread and wine turn into Jesus' body, blood, soul, and divinity, and that infuses into our body and soul, into our being. It gives us things that we are incapable of having and doing and being alone. And so that is challenging to fully understand and embrace, but you can start by just doing it and by like, I don't understand this, but I need you, Lord, and go to the Eucharist. So Yeah, just lean into those sacraments and allow that to help you with the the uprooting.
Yep. Uproot the
Bad
bad fruit.
bad. All right.
And we will see you at the next episode for part 3. I forgot what I called it.
Resurrection series.
No, I know that.
Called
Lust.
what?
Either talking
Oh,
about
the
lust or
next one.
either
Oh,
about lust or
sorry.
forgiveness. Doing about one of those.
Ooh.
Oh my
Either
goodness,
one's gonna
I'm
be me.
cracking